I take immense pleasure in introducing our next guest speaker for today, Advocate Vandana Chavan Ma'am. She was thrice elected as the councillor for the Pune Municipal Corporation, and she was also the mayor of Pune from 1997 to 1998, where her leadership and significant contributions to public service and public welfare have brought a progressive vision to the city's governance. She has also served as a prominent member of Rajya Sabha for 12 years. During her tenure, she was known for her active participation in the legislative debates and her commitment to issues like sustainable urban development and women empowerment. Throughout her career, Ma'am has spearheaded several initiatives targeting citizen participation, women empowerment, and sustainable development. She is a pioneer in establishing marketing outlets for goods manufactured by women and the mentally and disably challenged by the name of SMILE, Savitri Marketing Institution for Ladies Empowerment, which is the first ever platform in the state of Maharashtra and in India. Throughout her career, through her continued involvement in NGO organizations and initiatives, Ma'am remains a prominent figure in promoting social welfare and environmental sustainability in Pune and beyond. We are truly honored to have such a dedicated and inspiring personality with us. Ma'am, please enlighten us with your wise words. Thank you.
Thank you, Kalyani, for the kind words. Honorable Kumbhakoni sir, who we have just heard, अतिशय ब्रिलियंट स्पीच सर आपण दिला. त्याच्यानंतर आता बोलायचं म्हणजे टेन्शन आलं आहे. चितळे सर हू हॅज जस्ट लेफ्ट अस, वजे सर, त्याचप्रमाणे प्रिन्सिपल गायकवाडजी, प्रोफेसर आपटे, धात्रकजी, ऑल द मेंबर्स ऑफ द स्टाफ अँड माय यंग फ्रेंड्स, लेडीज अँड जेंटलमेन. मला ज्या वेळेला प्रोफेसर आपटे इन्व्हाइट करायला आले आहेत, इतक्या अस्खलित इंग्लिशमध्ये त्यांनी मला इन्व्हिटेशन दिलं. अँड आय थॉट एव्हरीथिंग इज गॉन टू बी इन इंग्लिश. कुंभकोणी सरांनी मराठीत बोलल्यानंतर मला आता असं झालं आहे की मी आली आहे थॉट प्रोसेस इंग्लिशमध्ये बोलण्यासाठी, पण नाव आय एम गो टू ब्रेक इन टू मराठी अँड ब्रेक इन टू इंग्लिश ॲज अँड वेन इट इज पॉसिबल. आय होप यू विल एक्सक्यूज मी फॉर दॅट. Basically, I have been given this topic on role of constitution in protecting the environment. First of all, at the outset, I would like to thank the SP College, the Political Science Department, for having invited me here this morning to share my thoughts on constitution and environment. As the Constitution turns 75, it is a matter of immense pride that, one, it is the longest constitution in the world, right? सगळ्यात जास्त आर्टिकल्स असलेली ही कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन आहेत, वर्ड्स असलेली कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन आहे. इट encompasses a vastness of the country. आपलं population, we are the most populated country in the world. First it used to be China, now it's India. And we have a diverse background of people. Diversity in food, diversity in clothes, diversity in language, diversity in thought, diversity in religion, and all this has been encompassed in the Constitution. Not only this, the features of the Constitution are so wide that it encompasses the fundamental principles of governance and also the administrative provisions. And all this has actually proved the test of time. We have been successful all these years, ki apan 75 पोचलोय, but it has been very, very smooth. Amendments चिकार झाल्या, almost 106 amendments in the Constitution till today, but the transition always has been very smooth. And therefore, we can call our Constitution a dynamic Constitution. It is changing as per the need of the community. There have been several lectures upon Aikle on Constitution, different aspects of Constitution, and also there have been separate lectures on environment. I myself have been giving a lot of lectures on climate change and its awareness. But I'm intrigued to see that the college thought of marrying the two, constitution and environment, because this is something that I had never ever heard or never ever talked about. So I'm really happy that the college has thought on this occasion to marry the two issues and talk about environment and the constitution. Talking about environment, I think all of us know that it is an intrinsic part of our tradition, values and ethos. बघा ना, आपण आपला पूर्वी कचरा कुठे टाकायचो? आपल्या सगळ्यांचं रूट्स आहे कुठेतरी ग्रामीण भागात आहे, राईट? आपण कचरा कसा टाकायचो? बाहेर, घराच्या बाहेर असायचा, मस्तपैकी तिथं ओला कचरा तो त्याचं खत केलं जायचं. निर्माल्य असायचं ते नदीत टाकायचं, पण आता लक्षात आलं की नदीत टाकता येत नाही, आपण नदीला प्रदूषित करतोय. पण आपल्या अनेक गोष्टी, आपल्या फेस्टिवल्स असतील, आपल्या वे ऑफ लाईफ असेल, all of that was based on sustainable development, based on environmental protection. पण आता कुठेतरी आपल्याला दिसतंय की we are forgetting those principles. Population explosion could be one of the issues. Consumerism could be another issue. दुसरं म्हणजे globalization, urbanization, all these issues have put us to think once again whether our environment is really doing good. आणि ज्या प्रमाणात आज आपल्याला दिसतं की क्लायमेट चेंज हा फार मेजर प्रॉब्लेम झालेला आहे. पाऊस पडायला पाहिजे त्याला तर पडत नाही, पडायला नको त्याला तर पडतो. कुठे गारपीट होते तर कुठे अतिवृष्टी होते. उभं क्रॉप असतं ते पूर्ण सपाट होतं, शेतकऱ्यांचं प्रचंड नुकसान होतं, आत्महत्या त्यामुळे बघायला मिळतात. डेझर्टिफिकेशन होतंय, हीट वेव्स येत आहेत. या पद्धतीने आपलं निसर्ग आपल्याबरोबर खेळत आहे. Who is responsible for that? Scientists have proved beyond doubt now that it is anthropogenic. Anthropogenic म्हणजे काय? तुम्ही आणि मी आपल्या लाईफस्टाईलमुळे जे कार्बन एमिशन्स होत आहेत त्यामुळे ॲटमॉस्फिअर जे पृथ्वीच्या भोवती आहे ते आता डिस्टर्ब झाले आणि त्याच्यामुळे हे आपल्याला चित्र बघायला मिळतं आहे. आणि म्हणून टुडे इट इज व्हेरी इम्पॉर्टंट दॅट वी टॉक अबाउट एन्व्हायरमेंट अँड हाऊ वी नीड टू डील विथ इट. When I was thinking as to कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनमध्ये कुठले कुठले प्रोव्हिजन्स आहेत एन्व्हायरमेंटचे, आता आपल्याला बघायला मिळतं की डायरेक्टिव्ह प्रिन्सिपल्स ऑफ स्टेट पॉलिसीमध्ये 48A आहे. नंतर फंडामेंटल ड्युटीजमध्ये 51AG आहे. देर आर लॉट ऑफ प्रेसिडेंट्स ऑफ द ज्युडिशरीज, सुप्रीम कोर्ट अँड हायकोर्ट्स. बट ज्या वेळेला कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन अस्तित्वात आलं त्यावेळेला what were the provisions provided for the environment? It is interesting that there were no explicit provision for environment protection. Now this is something which was quite an eye-opener to me. And I asked my question, why would it have happened? आता तर Google आपल्याला easily available आहे. Google करा, विचारा, why didn't the makers of the constitution think about having provisions for environment protection? So explicit असे provisions नव्हते. आणि त्याचं कारण मी असं बघते आणि ते गुगल पण तेच सांगतं की त्यावेळेला एन्व्हायरमेंट वॉज नॉट सच अ बिग इश्यू. नुकतं आपल्याला स्वातंत्र्य मिळालं होतं आणि त्यामुळे देशापुढचे इश्यूज जे होते ते वेगळेच होते. कम्युनल व्हायलन्स होता, इंडस्ट्री करायची होती, पॉवर्टी होती, अनएम्प्लॉयमेंट होतं, असे अनेक इश्यूज होते ज्याच्यामुळे आपल्या राज्यकर्त्यांना त्यावर लक्ष द्यायचं होतं. हाऊ टू सेट अ सिस्टम की आपलं ॲडमिनिस्ट्रेशन व्यवस्थित पद्धतीने चालेल, आपलं सेंट्रल गव्हर्नमेंट, स्टेट गव्हर्नमेंट, ज्युडिशरी, एक्झिक्युटिव्ह हे कुठल्या पद्धतीने फंक्शन करतील हे त्यांच्यासमोर होतं आणि त्या दृष्टीने त्यांनी तो विचार केला होता. आणि म्हणून कदाचित कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनमध्ये एक्सप्लिसिटली ते बघायला मिळालं नाही. दुसरं कारण असं पण असेल की डेटा आपल्याकडे नव्हता की एन्व्हायरमेंट ह्याचं डिग्रेडेशन होतं आहे, त्यावेळेला नसेल पण होत फारसं. इट वॉज ओनली इन द 1980s. म्हणजे तुमच्या दृष्टीने 1980s म्हणजे खूप पूर्वी, पण आमच्या वयाच्या लोकांनी 1980s आत्ताच होतं, हल्लीच होतं. सो इट वॉज ओनली ॲज रिसेंट ॲज 1980s की सुप्रीम कोर्टाने रूलिंग्स द्यायला सुरुवात केली की आर्टिकल 21 which is right to life includes right to a healthy life and right to a clean environment as recent as 1985. So this is what the precedents of the constitution shows, that explicitly nothing was there. आता म्हणता येईल की implicitly होतं, कारण fundamental rights interpretation is showing that right to life means right to a clean environment. But this came very much later as we go in the environmental jurisprudence. Now, what is the evolution of environmental jurisprudence in our country? If we see that, एक आपल्याला दिसतं की इंटरनॅशनल कॉन्फरन्सेस जे झाले त्याच्यामध्ये इंडिया प्लेड अ व्हेरी व्हेरी इम्पॉर्टंट रोल. त्याच्यामध्ये जे ठरवलं गेलं, त्याच्यामध्ये जे म्हटलं गेलं की सगळ्या देशांनी कुठल्या पद्धतीचे कायदे करायचे, त्याची अंमलबजावणी आपल्या देशामध्ये पहिल्या प्रथम नेहमी होत असत. There was a Stockholm conference in 1972. It was for the first time that United Nations talked about environment, human environment. And 1972 मध्ये त्यावेळेच्या पंतप्रधान इंदिराजी गांधी ह्या तिथं representation केलं. स्वीडनच्या प्राईम मिनिस्टर बरोबर the only head of country who spoke at that conference was इंदिराजी गांधी. आणि तिथं त्यांनी खूप प्रभावीपणे असं मांडलं की it is not about developed and developing countries. It's about recognizing that today there is environment pollution and this is going to affect human beings and their well-being. This was recognized in 1972. बरं नुसतं बोलून चालणार नाही ना, आपल्या देशात सुद्धा येऊन काहीतरी त्याच्याबद्दल केलं पाहिजे. सो आपल्या देशात आल्याबरोबर the first thing that was done after the Stockholm Conference in 1972 was that the 42nd Amendment Bill was passed in our country. You are political science students, you know better than me. The 42nd Amendment Bill is also called a mini constitution. Why is it called a mini constitution? Because it gives several articles which change the nature of our polity. And with this, with the 42nd Amendment, environmentच्या दृष्टीने आपण विचार केला, that there was 48A which was enacted in the Directive Principles of State Policy, which said that it is the duty of the state to protect and improve the environment and safeguard forest wildlife of the country. For the first time, the Indian Constitution was talking about environment. The second thing which was done was एक संपूर्ण नवीन चॅप्टर घातला गेला. कुंभकोणी सरांनी मगाशी सांगितलं की वी टॉक अबाउट आवर राईट्स, वी फॉरगेट आवर ड्युटीज. त्यावेळेला कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनमध्ये ड्युटीज लिहिल्याच नव्हत्या. इट वॉज फॉर द फर्स्ट टाइम in the 42nd Amendment that a full part 4A was added in the Constitution, which talked about our fundamental duties. And amongst the 10 fundamental duties, the one which connects to the environment is 51AG, which talks about it is a duty of every citizen to protect and improve the environment, including forests, lakes, rivers, and wildlife, and have compassion for living creatures. Again, for the first time, along with 48A, 51AG was talking about environment protection in the Constitution. So these two are landmark amendments, so-called as far as environment concerned, which got included into the Constitution. This was post-Stockholm Conference in 1972. I'm going to come to another conference 20 years after that. That's the Rio Conference. But we'll come to that a little later. That happened in 1992, which also brought about landmark inclusions into our Constitution. The Conference of Stockholm, which is also called United Nations Conference of Human Environment, not only set a trend in India, but it was an eye-opener for the whole country, whole world, and therefore it is called the Magna Carta of environmental legislation, not just in India, but world over. So असं समजायला नको की आपल्याकडे एन्व्हायरमेंट संबंधी कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनमध्ये काहीच नव्हतं. संपूर्ण जगात कुठे नव्हतं. It was for the first time की United Nations was formed in 1945, even before we got our independence, but India was a part of the signatory of the United Nations, surprisingly. But after that, for the first time, United Nations itself spoke about environment was in 1972, and we responded immediately after that amendment was passed, which was a great thing. आणि म्हणून आपल्या देशामध्ये the environmental issues वर स्टडी करणारे लोक pre-1972 and post-1972 मध्ये असं डिफरन्शिएट करतात की pre-1972 म्हणजे pre-Stockholm, we went only by IPC, we went only by other special laws which talked about criminal liability for environment, for flouting the environment. But post-1972, there have been these fundamental duties and directive state principles. Also, if you see, after 1972, that Stockholm, there was a spate of legislations which were passed in our country. And the legislations were like the Wildlife Protection Act in 1974, the Water Prevention and Control Pollution Act in 1974 again, Forest Conservation Act in 1980, Air Prevention and Control of Pollution Act in 1981, Environment Protection Act in 1986, which is an all-encompassing legislation, Public Liability Insurance Act in 1991, especially after the Bhopal tragedy. One saw that any company which was handling chemical stuff and which was hazardous to the public had to have an insurance, and that's why the act was passed. The Biological Diversity Act of 2002, आणि आता आपल्याला इंटरेस्ट असेल माहिती घ्यायला की the Biodiversity Act talks about every municipal corporation has to have a compendium of what are the biodiversity hotspots in their city and in their villages for the panchayats. So this is something which was never ever heard of, because today people have realized the importance of biodiversity and all other natural features. The National Green Tribunal was set up in 2010, which handles all our environment-related cases. Solid waste management. It required a lady from Bangalore, Almitra Patel, to go to the courts to say ki kachra kasahi padla hai, kuthehi padla hai. There is no scientific way of disposing the kachra. आता सुद्धा कचरा आपल्याला दिसतो. खरं लॉ आहे, पण तरी दिसतो. पण त्यावेळेला तर लॉ पण नव्हता. आणि because of her, the High Court, or rather the Supreme Court, put up a committee and said, no, we need to make a law in this direction. And today we have the Solid Waste Management Act, and along with that, the construction debris waste, the electronic waste, and all other kinds of waste. Haru haru te sudha kaide hot gele. Now we have the Energy Conservation Act in 2001 and the Renewable Energy through Green Energy Open Access Rules in 2022. Why renewable energy? Anybody could tell me? Why renewable energy is getting so important? Because in the Paris Agreement, I don't know how many of you all follow what's happening world over, the conferences which are taken. There was a Paris Agreement in 2015 where heads of countries from all over the globe came together at Paris, and they decided that we have to reduce our carbon emissions. If it is business as usual, the carbon emissions will go to such an extent that the temperature of the earth will increase way above 2 degrees centigrade. Atta 2 degrees centigrade फार छोटा वाटतं, but 2 degrees centigrade for the earth can cause devastation. Because 2 degrees centigrade, when I say, it's an average temperature which can be increased. North Pole, South Pole ला जर temperature increase झालं, what will happen? Melting of the glaciers. If the glaciers melt, what will happen? Increase in water level. If there is an increase in water level, what will happen? Look at the map of India. We are a peninsula. Does the glacier say that I will increase my level of water only in my area? The water goes all pervasive. And if it is all pervasive, then look at the map of India. Apल्या तिन्ही बाजूनी, we are a peninsula, sea level rise होईल. So that 2 degrees centigrade is an average. It could mean havoc for the globe. And therefore, I don't know how many of you all know की आपल्या इंडियाच्या बाजूला 2 islands होते. There was a Lochara Island. Not there anymore. It's gone under the ocean. There was a Moor Island. Moor Island, whenever there were bilateral talks between India and Bangladesh, India used to say it belongs to us. Bangladesh used to say, no, no, it belongs to us. And this used to be always the issue on the agenda of the bilateral talks. Nature took its decision. Bhandat basat kiva bhanduts naka. No, there is no more Moor Island. We have read in the papers 2 years back, रकानेच्या रकाने भरून येत होते paper मध्ये, that Bombay is under threat. South Bombay will go underwater by whatever year. We saw Gateway of India पर्यंत इतकं पाणी येत नव्हतं तितकं मागच्या वर्षी आलं. This is happening everywhere. Sea level is rising. And therefore, we have to be very conscious of the fact that this is happening. And therefore, in Paris, I come back to the Paris Agreement, it was decided that every country has to come up with their nationally determined commitments. India has to commit that I will do this to bring down my carbon emission. So what was India's commitment? Two major commitments. One was we will go in for renewable energy, where 50% of our electric capacity would be from renewable sources. That means it will not be by burning of coal. It will be by solar or by wind power or hydroelectricity. So 50% of that will come from that baggage. We are on that line. We have done much more than we committed at Paris. The second thing what was said, that we will plant trees to such an extent that it will absorb 2.5 to 3 billion tons of carbon dioxide. Now, if you ask me how many zeros, sorry, I don't know. But it means a lot, right? Is the plantation happening? Can the government do this alone? Cannot. It is you and me as individuals who have to do it. Decide for yourself, commit to yourself that every birthday that I celebrate, I will plant one tree. Can we do it? Only then can we expect, still we will not reach the 2.5 to 3 billion tons of sequestration of carbon dioxide. This is what needs to be done. And these were the NDCs, as they are called, the National Determined Commitments of the country, and therefore renewable energy has also become a very, very important component in our country, and laws and rules are being made in that direction. Nothing much on the tree front yet. So the inclusion of 48A and 51AG in the Constitution also on the other side gave an impetus to the judicial interpretations of the fundamental rights. The fundamental rights were very much there. But you see through the judicial pronouncements that even the high courts and the Supreme Courts were geared up to interpret the laws in such a way that they were in keeping with 48A and 51AG, which means that we have to protect environment. If you saw Article 21, what does Article 21 say? Protection of life and personal liberty, right? So there were several cases which said right to life means this, right to life means that. But it was only in 1985 where it was held in MC Mehta's case, in the Taj Mahal case, if you know it, where, rather, that was not the first case. This was the Mussoorie Hills limestone quarries case. The Dehradun and Mussoorie Hills in the Himalayan range, there were limestone which was being quarried. And the people from there went to the Supreme Court to say that this is causing hazard to our life and health. It was the Supreme Court which interpreted that this will have to stop immediately, as right to life means right to a clean environment. And therefore, this quarrying was closed forever. The Indian Council of Enviro Legal Action talked about industrial pollution. Then the Vellore citizens case talked about another affluent of tanneries being put into Tamil Nadu rivers. MC Mehta case about gas leakages, tanneries in Kanpur, and hazardous industries. All these cases go to show that any kind of pollution which hampers the health of the people can go to the court, or people have sent letters to the court, and they have been taken up as writ petitions, and it has been ruled that no matter what, the health of the person is included in Article 21, and that is right to life. Several times it also happened that on the one side, when these matters came before the court, one was the environmental aspect. On the second side, it was the aspect that the Article 19 gives me the liberty to practice any profession or any trade and business. Then if people are employed there, these people are going to go out of job. What do we do? The court was in a quandary. They didn't know what to decide. But the court still held it. Doesn't matter if people go out of business. They can be relocated. In fact, it gave directives to the state governments or the authorities concerned and said, relocate them. But this will have to stop because it plays with the life of the people, the health of the people, and that was held prime. And therefore, in several cases again, one S. Jagannath case, where sea beaches and sea coast were treated as gifts of nature. Shrimp farming culture, which caused pollution in that area, was stopped only because this was hampering the health of the people, and there was a stench which was coming, which made life miserable for the people. Article 19, again, protection of certain rights regards regarding freedom of speech and expression. Even here, the Supreme Court said, even this article became very visible in environmental cases where media, NGO representatives were held to have locus standi even if they represented somebody else. Even if a letter was sent to the Supreme Court, that was treated as a writ petition, converted into a writ petition rather. And this was Article 19(1)(a), which talks about freedom of speech and expression. A person could do this. Article 14, which always goes with all these articles, is equality before law and equal protection of law. Again, a spate of cases where court has held that Article 14 is very much applicable to this case, these cases. There have been several doctrines which have been laid down by the courts. I will not go into the details because I have to keep to the time. One is polluter pays. I don't think I need to explain what polluter pays means. Jo ghan karel teni paise bharayche. Unfortunately, in India, not so much is being done. Only in very big cases like the oleum leak case and Vellore case, the companies were asked to pay compensation. But in London, for example, it's a classic example. मी कॉर्पोरेशनला होते 15 वर्ष ॲज अ कॉर्पोरेटर आणि दरवेळेला आम्ही ज्याला म्हणायचो की गाड्या कमी केल्या पाहिजेत आणि पब्लिक ट्रान्सपोर्ट सुधारवलं पाहिजे. Isn't that what needs to be done to improve your air quality? If you have to reduce your cars, you have to improve your public transportation system, you have to reduce the parking. सिंगापूरमध्ये गाडी विकत घ्यायची असेल ना, तर पार्किंगसाठी तुम्हाला पे करावं लागतं किंवा दाखवावं लागतं गव्हर्नमेंटला की माझ्यासाठी पार्किंगची जागा आहे, तरच तुम्हाला गाडी विकत घेता येते. इन लंडन देर इज अ कंजेशन टॅक्स. तुम्ही जर तुमची गाडी एका ठराविक टाईममध्ये तिथून नेली त्या मिड लंडन एरियामध्ये, तर ऑटोमॅटिकली तुमचे पैसे त्यातनं कट होतात. तुम्ही गाड्यामध्ये एकटे गेला ना, तर जास्त टॅक्स कट होतो. तुम्ही जर कारपूल केला तर कमी टॅक्स. का? तर तुम्ही 4 जण ती गाडी वापरताय. That is why people are persuaded to use the public transport. Here the polluter is paying. So this is the principle which is very much used there. थोड्या अंशी तरी होईना आपल्या देशामध्ये आपण यूज करू शकतो का? हा प्रश्नचिन्ह आपण स्वतःला विचारूया. आणि कधीतरी तुमच्यापैकींनी रिट पिटिशन केलं तर आपल्याला त्या पद्धतीने ते डॉक्ट्रीन आपल्याला वापरून आपल्या बाजूनी ऑर्डर घ्यायला आपण सफल होऊ असं वाटतंय. Another doctrine is precautionary principle. If an industry knows कि घाण होणार आहे, pollution होणार आहे, they have to take precautionary steps to make sure. The word itself goes to show that the meaning of the doctrine. There is a doctrine of public trust. This was MC Mehta versus Kamalnath. एक अतिशय known judgment आहे. Kamalnath was the minister for environment. त्यांनी त्यांच्या कॉन्स्टिट्युन्सीमध्ये जिथं बियास रिव्हर जातं, बियास रिव्हर कीप्स चेंजिंग इट्स रूट. बियास रिव्हरच्या रिव्हर बँकवर त्यांनी हॉटेलला परवानगी दिली, एका मोटेलला परवानगी दिली. प्रायव्हेट एजन्सी होती. तिथल्या लोकांनी हायकोर्टात सुप्रीम कोर्टात पिटिशन केलं, सेइंग की दिस इज समथिंग विच इज नॉट डन. यू कॅनॉट हॅव अ मोटेल ऑन द रिव्हर बँक्स ऑफ एनी रिव्हर अँड नॉट अट ऑल द रिव्हर बियास बिकॉज इट कीप्स चेंजिंग इट्स रूट. कोर्ट said that this motel will have to be brought down, and that is what was done, and they were made to give a lot of compensation. So doctrine of sustainable development is also a new doctrine which has been very recently used by the earlier Chief Justice of India, D.Y. Chandrachud, in the Indian bustard case, which talked about climate change and how you need to address it. So this is about what happened after Stockholm. Stockholm नंतर amendments आल्या कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनमध्ये, judicial pronouncements आणखीन pronounce झाल्या, and therefore now people have found it very congenial to go to courts and seek redressal because they know they have the confidence that courts are there to listen to you. And therefore that is the kind of confidence that has got built in the people of India, that we can go to courts and ask redressal because right to life means right to healthy living. The last point that I would like to talk about is after the Stockholm, magashi matल्याप्रमाणे 1992 मध्ये came the Rio Declaration. This was Rio de Janeiro in Brazil. Again, there was a conference, the United Nations Conference on Environment and Development. ह्या कॉन्फरन्समध्ये several things were discussed. In fact, that became ते मूळ झालं की त्याच्यामध्ये United Nations, UNFCCC was formed, a body of experts which started working on studying climate change, how it's going to be impacted, what do we need to do to address this, what is the kind of carbon emission we can allow, we should not allow, what repercussions it will have not only on the people but living beings and the globe as a whole. There was an Agenda 21 which was passed in this. And what did the Agenda 21 say in the Rio conference? It says that we have to see what is the present situation. Secondly, we have to say what is the future that we have to look at after the next generation comes into looking at the affairs of the country or the globe. And the third most important thing is to promote sustainable development at local, national, and global levels. Now, I always believe that 1992 Rio conference was an eye-opener once again for some legislations in our country. Apla 73rd and 74th amendment to the constitution, which is a watershed movement. Current attaparanta central government and state government che functions hote, judiciary, executive, legislature che functions hote, but local government che functions kadi constitution madhe hote ka? Before 1992 ta naute. It was only the 73rd and 74th amendment which ushered these amendments and brought the Panchayat Raj to the municipal corporation into the ambit of the Indian Constitution, where it is now mandated that you think globally but you act globally. जर पर्यावरणाचा ग्लोबल इश्यू असेल तर ॲक्शन कुठे झाली पाहिजे? लोकल लेवलला झाली पाहिजे ना. झाडं लावा, कुठे लावा? ग्लोबल लेवलला नुसतं म्हणून चालेल, करावंच लागेल, पण ॲक्शन व्हायची असेल तर इट विल हॅव टू बी ॲट द लोकल लेवल. So the local governments were given that importance, which was, I think, the watershed movement, and that is the 1992 Rio conference, which really ushered this. एक 12वा schedule Indian Constitution मध्ये add केला गेला, along with the 73rd and 74th amendment. पूर्वी BPMC Act होता, Bombay Provincial Municipal Corporation Act, which ruled how do you run a municipal corporation. Nantar it came to the Maharashtra Municipal Corporation Act, which is now prevalent. In this, in the constitution, the same functions have been once again enumerated in the 12th schedule. There are 18 such pointers, and 2 are very important, which are not there in the Maharashtra Municipal Corporation Act, I think. In this, it is right from urban planning to public amenities to poverty elevation. The 2 main important things, which is again pertaining to environment, is at serial number 8, which says the municipal corporations or the local governments have to look into urban forestry. Have you heard about this? कधीच ऐकलं नव्हतं ना. शहरांमध्ये आपण गार्डन्स म्हणतो, पार्क्स म्हणतो, ओपन स्पेसेस म्हणतो, प्लेग्राऊंड्स म्हणतो, ह्याच्यासाठी रिझर्वेशन अंडर डेव्हलपमेंट प्लॅन झालं पाहिजे असं म्हणतो. ते डेफिसिटच आहे दरवेळेला. पण आपण अर्बन फॉरेस्ट कधी म्हटलंय का, ऐकलंय का? नाही. इट इज अ आउटकम ऑफ दिस की क्लायमेट चेंज होत आहे. जर आपल्यामधनं पुण्या शहरातून एमिट झालेलं कार्बन डायऑक्साईड झाडांमध्ये शोषून घ्यायचं असेल, कारण झाडच ते शोषू शकतात ना. व्हॉट डू ट्रीज डू? दे गिव्ह अस ऑक्सिजन बट दे अब्झॉर्ब कार्बन डायऑक्साईड. शाळेत शिकलोय आपण. तर हे प्रदूषण जर शोषून घ्यायचं असेल तर तो स्पंज जो आहे तो आपल्या शहरात पाहिजे. असं नाही म्हणता येणार की मी इथं प्रदूषण करेल आणि जाईल ना ते महाबळेश्वरला आणि तिथं ती झाडं शोषून घेतील, कुठेतरी जंगलात जाईल तिथं. तसं नाही, जवळच आपल्याला पाहिजे. आणि म्हणून दिस कन्सेप्ट ऑफ अर्बन फॉरेस्ट वॉज ब्रॉट इन टू द इंडियन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन. अनफॉर्च्युनेटली not a single municipal corporation is following this. That is the irony. आणि म्हणून तुमच्यापैकी कोणीतरी जागा होईल आणि ह्याच्याबद्दल पिटिशन कधीतरी करेल अशी आपण इच्छा ठेवूया. आम्ही वारंवार ह्याच्याबद्दल बोलतोय, पण आम्ही पण अजून पिटिशन केलेलं नाही आहे. आणखीन वन थिंग, द आयटम नंबर 8 सेड प्रोटेक्शन ऑफ एन्व्हायरमेंट अँड प्रमोशन ऑफ इकोलॉजिकल ॲस्पेक्ट्स. अगेन द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन not only talked about fundamental rights and directive principles of state policy, but also in the 12th schedule has spoken about environment and ecological aspects. It has also spoken about provision of urban amenities and facilities such as parks, gardens and playgrounds, जे development plan मध्ये होतच असतं, पण not to the extent. Today I feel very, very concerned. आता पुण्यात आपण बसलोय म्हणून कुंभकोणी सर पण इथे, त्यांचा पण गायडन्स आपण कधीतरी घेऊया, की शहरामध्ये डेव्हलपमेंट प्लॅन होत असतो, माहिती आहे तुम्हाला, किती पॉप्युलेशन, किती पॉप्युलेशनला URD PFI नॉर्म्स आहेत गव्हर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडियाने केलेले, की 1,00,000 पॉप्युलेशनला तुम्हाला इतकी ओपन स्पेस पाहिजे, 1,00,000 पॉप्युलेशनला एवढे स्कूल्स पाहिजेत, एवढे हॉस्पिटल्स पाहिजेत, एवढे पार्क्स पाहिजेत, बिकॉज द लाईफ in every city has to be a healthy life. It's not just a life की चला मी जगतोय आणि काय जे शहरात चाललंय चालू द्या, तसं करून चालणार नाही. You have to have a healthy life that is incorporated in Article 21. पण आज असं झालेलं आहे की गव्हर्नमेंटनी, स्टेट गव्हर्नमेंटनी आपल्याला UDCPR म्हणून दिलं आहे, युनिफाईड DC रूल्स. आणि ह्या युनिफाईड DC रूल्समध्ये पूर्वी जिथं 1.1 FSI आपल्या शहरामध्ये होता, म्हणून आपल्याला उंच बिल्डिंग्स दिसत नव्हते पूर्वी, आणि त्या अनुषंगाने आपलं वॉटर लाईन, सुवेज लाईन, रस्ते हे सगळं त्या अनुषंगाने केलं आहे. आज UDCPRनी आपल्याला काही ठिकाणी 5 FSI, काही ठिकाणी 7 FSI, काही ठिकाणी 9 FSI एवढा देऊ केलेला आहे. एवढा जर FSI आला, एवढी जर लोक पुणे शहरात आली, तर त्याचं पॉप्युलेशन दुपटी नाही तिपटीच 4 पटीने वाढणार आहे. पाणी आहे का? सुएज ट्रीटमेंट व्यवस्थित होत आहे का? 50% सुद्धा सुएज आपलं महानगरपालिका ट्रीट करू शकत नाही. एवढं सुएज त्या नदी पात्रात आपण टाकणार, हे चालेल का? गाड्या, रस्ते वाढणार आहेत का? तर नाही, रस्ते तेवढेच राहणार आहेत. आजच बंपर टू बंपर ट्रॅफिक पुणे शहरात आहे. हाच ट्रॅफिक जर वाढला तर काय परिस्थिती होईल आपल्याला सगळ्यांना माहिती आहे. गाडी आयडलिंगमध्ये असली तर मॅक्सिमम पोल्युशन त्यावेळेला होत असतं, आणि हेच पोल्युशन वाढत वाढत जाणार आहे. पुणे शहर फार सुंदर, पेन्शनर्स पॅराडाईज असं आपण म्हणायचो. आता पेन्शनर्स पॅराडाईज खूप सुंदर, खूप क्लायमेट राहिलेलं नाही आहे. मी ज्या दिवशी ह्याच्यावर थोडा रिसर्च करत होते, कारण आम्ही रिट पिटिशन करणार आहोत ह्याच्यात, तर हे करत होते त्यावेळेला मी सहज रिअल टाईम पोल्युशन इन पुणे बघितलं. सर, इट वॉज वर्स दॅन दिल्ली. दिल्ली इज सपोज टू बी अ गॅस चेंबर. तुम्हाला माहीत आहे ना, जगातल्या, मी म्हणते जगातल्या सगळ्यात 50 टॉपमोस्ट प्रदूषित शहरामध्ये मी ज्यावेळेला पार्लमेंटमध्ये 1-1.5 वर्षापूर्वी बोलले, त्यावेळेला त्या 50 शहरामध्ये 25 शहरं ही भारतातली होती. आत्ता बघितलं तुम्ही, गुगल करायचं हा कार्यक्रम झाल्यानंतर, 50 पैकी 40 शहरं ही भारतात आहेत. ही परिस्थिती असेल तर काय आपलं फ्युचर आहे हे तुम्ही क्वेश्चन मार्क आपल्यासमोर येतो. आणि ह्याच्यामध्ये दिल्ली इज वन ऑफ द टॉप मोस्ट 1 or 2, 3 मध्ये. आता इफ पुणे कॅन गो वर्स दॅन दिल्ली, व्हॉट कॅन बी वर्स दॅन दॅट? So basically, as Article 21, it is not only right of life, it is right to a healthy life, and therefore we have to take such causes to the courts or to the municipal corporation or to the concerned authorities, voice our concern, try to make sense in them. If not, then courts are the only recourse. So these are things which I wanted to just share with you. I want to open up your thought to this fact that we are living in a polluted world. We are living in a polluted India. We are living in a polluted city. We cannot be silent spectators. We'll have to wake up. We'll have to rise for the cause and try to see and address it. You and me are living it. Our future generations will absolutely be in a disaster. अनेक वेळेला मी शेवटचा हा किस्सा सांगून बंद करणार आहे. अनेक वेळेला मी हे सांगत असते, मी लहान असताना माझ्या आईवडिलांना, आजी आजोबांना विचारलं असतं की पाणी विकत घ्यावं लागेल का हो? काय उत्तर आलं असतं? छे, पाणी आणि विकत कशाला, इतकं मुबलक आहे. आज काय होतं आहे? पाणी विकत घ्यावं लागतं. तुम्ही दरवेळेला नाही अर्थात, पण दरवेळेला आपल्याला नाही. म्हणजे आय वॉज सरप्राईज मॅडम, आय वेंट विथ अन IT CEO टू अ हॉटेल फॉर अ मीटिंग, आणि वेटरनी ॲज युजल विचारलं की पाणी कुठलं? माझं इमिजिएट रिॲक्शन वॉज नॉर्मल. मी पुण्यातली, मी माझी महापौर, मी 15 वर्ष कॉर्पोरेशन, आय कॅनॉट इवन डाऊट माय वॉटर. हाऊ कॅन आय हॅव टू टेक माय वॉटर? सो आय सेड नॉर्मल वॉटर. ही सेड व्हॉट? You're going to drink normal water? I said, of course. What are you going to drink? No, bottled water. And I said, what do you do at home? No, we always have a can of whatever, Bisleri or whatever, हे कोणाला परवडू शकतं? IT माणसाला होईल, तुम्हाला, मला, मध्यमवर्गीयांना नाही, रोज तर नाहीच नाही, आणि गरीब वर्गाला तर नाहीच नाही. दे विल यूज आवर बॉटल ॲज रिसायकल्ड वॉटर, राईट? मला परत आणखीन एक किस्सा आठवतो की मी ज्यावेळेला एन्व्हायरमेंट इश्यूज सर कॉर्पोरेशनमध्ये रेज करायचे, मला का माहीत नाही, मी नॉर्मल सिटिझन म्हणून एन्व्हायरमेंटल इश्यूज रेज करायचे, पण मला टॅग दिला एन्व्हायरमेंटलिस्ट, आणि नंतर मला काही आमच्या ज्येष्ठ लोकांनी येऊन सांगायचे, वंदना हा हाय फाय इश्यू आहे गं, हा फॅशनेबल इश्यू आहे, हा काय गरिबांचा इश्यू नाही आहे. मी सांगायचे सर हा गरिबांचाच इश्यू आहे. जर कोणाला सगळ्यात जास्त फटका क्लायमेट चेंजचा पडणार आहे ना, तर त्या गरीब माणसाला पडणार आहे. आज जर मी म्हटलं की इफ इट इज बिझनेस ॲज युजल, वी जस्ट डोंट डू एनिथिंग अबाउट द पोल्युशन इन द एअर, वी जस्ट डू एनिथिंग, लेट इट गो, वॉट एव्हर इज हॅपनिंग इज फाईन, असं जर आपण म्हटलं, तर आज मी म्हणेन तुम्हाला हसू येईल की आपल्या मुलांच्या शाळेच्या बॅगमध्ये डब्बा, पाणी, पुस्तक, वह्या हे असतात. त्याच्यामध्ये आणखीन एक कप्पा करावा लागेल, त्या कप्प्यामध्ये ऑक्सिजनचा सिलेंडर ठेवावा लागेल, त्या मुलांना ऑक्सिजनचा मास्क लावून शाळेत जावं लागेल. अतिशयोक्ती वाटेल, पण दॅट डे मे नॉट बी फार अवे इफ इट इज बिझनेस ॲज युजल. आज मुंबई, पुण्यामध्ये, बँगलोरमध्ये देर आर ऑक्सिजन पार्लर्स. Businessmen after their work go for a drink to breathe, not only the drink is a separate thing, but to breathe in oxygen, because oxygen purifies your blood and gives you a healthy body. हे तुम्हाला, मला, आपल्याला, गरिबांना तर आउट ऑफ क्वेश्चन हे परवडणारी गोष्ट नाही आहे. म्हणून दिस इज अ वेकअप कॉल, and therefore I really thank ma'am for inviting me and taking this topic, constitution and environment, to actually make you realize that this is the need of the day. We have to fight it out. We cannot let things go on as they are. And the courts are with us, judges are with us. They are ready to hear environmental issues. Let's make the most of it. Thank you once again for a patient hearing.
Thank you, ma'am, for delivering such an insightful speech. Now, I request Harshita Vande to introduce our speaker, Shri Pratik Dhatrak sir.
I know there'll be some questions for Vandana ma'am, but we'll have Pratik sir's lecture and then we'll have all the questions together.